That would have been funny.
God damn it. Okay. something crying out for a dick. Am I right?
Yay! There we go.
But yeah, so I've spent like most of the morning kind of fleshing out my character's backstory, and got way overexcited about it. Like went way overboard on the story thing.
Yeah.
So is that for a role play game or? Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, Cara got in touch with Neville and me, and sort of said like, would you be interested in doing like a D&D game for people who have never done D&D before? And so I was like, yeah, like sure, give it a go. And got Ben and Joanna as well.
Oh, nice.
Like last month at some point Neville ran like a one-off, like a one-shot game. The idea being it's like not a kind of ongoing campaign that we could just have a go, see what we all thought, and it wouldn't be anything that we were obliged to kind of continue with. So we did it, and I think like everyone just really enjoyed it. So we were like, well, let's carry on. Let's do another one with the same characters. And so that was today, and it was good fun.
Nice.
How about everyone else? What has everyone else been up to today?
I mean, you know what I've been up to, Frankie, because I've been sending you pictures.
Oh,
God almighty.
I think we might need an explanation there.
Yes.
I think it's more fun without the explanation.
True. We can just project whatever our fantasies are.
Yeah, like fill in the blanks.
Frankie,
Tina made some lovely tea in a lovely teapot.
I did make some lovely tea.
Wow.
Al and I also went on like a 3-hour walk, which is the longest I've moved all in one go since. I don't know.
Where did you go? Did you just have a wander around, or did you go anywhere specific?
There's a sort of little tiny bit of woodland with a path running through it called the Drum Chapel Way, which is sort of, if you loop the whole thing from our house, it takes about 3 hours.
Yeah.
So there's a relative amount of walking through just streets to get up to it. But that was really nice.
That sounds lush. That sounds
good.
Right, I'm just having a quick flick back and forth. I think give it maybe another minute or so. See if anyone else rocks up, and then we will start. I'm very excited about this. I'm excited to see what animal poems people will be bringing to the table. I've got a couple, but I think it's going to be most of you guys. Oh, also, exciting announcement. So tomorrow we will be having Storytime Sunday, as usual. Not as usual, it will not be me doing the story. I'm a guest storyteller, so that I can give my voice a little bit of a break before next week. And Gordon is going to be telling us a story. So that will be tomorrow night. I don't know what the story is, and I think it will be told rather than read. I said to him, free reign. You can tell what story you would like to tell. I don't need to know what it is. So
he probably also doesn't know what it is until he starts speaking.
I was like, well, you don't need to tell me because you may well not know anyway. But I'm very, very excited about that. So I'll put an announcement up tomorrow morning on the page to let everyone else know that's going on. But yeah, gonna have some Gordon story time.
I feel like I haven't seen Gordon in a while.
Yeah, I think he's been just sort of doing kind of other stuff and hunkering down and such like. But yeah, he's agreed to come back for him. It's very so it'll be nice to see him. Right. Shall we officially begin? So I have a little list of the various people who have said that they would like to read. I think, Mike, you've got 3, haven't you? So how about we kick off with one of yours, if that would work for you?
Of course, yeah. Thank you.
So whichever one you feel you would like to begin with.
Yeah, fab. Okay. I'll start with one called Blackbirds by Ellen P. Allerton. Day after day, the blackbirds came and perched in flocks on my hickory tree, while the leaves, at first just touched with flame, grew golden, then brown as brown could be. And still they came in a sable shower, a flittering, chattering, noisy crowd, and I wondered, watching them hour by hour, what they said when they talked so loud. Sadly, the leaves fell, one by one, fluttering, floating slowly down, leaves so green in the summer sun, now so withered and sere and brown. The tree grew bare. I watched one day in vain, the blackbirds came no more, and then I knew they had fled away, and my silverful thought this burden bore. The wind shall blow through my hickory tree, the sifting snow and the sleety rain, but little I know what awaiteth me, ere the leaves and the blackbirds come again.
Beautiful.
That's lovely.
That was
Nice.
absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you, Michael.
That was really lovely. I have a one which Nix has requested, which is also about a blackbird. If it would be okay for me to go next. So this is The Blackbird of Glanmore by Seamus Heaney. On the grass when I arrive, filling the stillness with life, but ready to scare off at the very first wrong move. In the ivy when I leave. It's you, blackbird, I love. I park, pause, take heed, breathe. Just breathe and sit. And lines I once translated come back. I want away to the house of death, to my father under the low clay roof. And I think of one gone to him, a little stillness dancer, haunter son, lost brother, cavorting through the yard, so glad to see me home, my homesick first term over. And think of a neighbour's words long after the accident. Yon bird on the shed roof, up on the ridge for weeks. I never said nothing at the time, but I never liked yon bird. The automatic lock clunks shut. The blackbird's panic is short-lived. For a second, I've a bird's eye view of myself, a shadow on raked gravel in front of my house of life. Hedgehop, I am absolute for you. Your ready talk back, your each standoffish comeback, your picky, nervy gold beak. On the grass when I arrive, in the ivy when I leave. So who would like to go? Does anyone else have a bird one that they would feel would be thematically relevant? If not,
I have a bird one.
You have a bird one? Mm-hmm. Would you like to go, Pina?
Yeah, so slightly out of my comfort zone because this one requires a Black Country accent. And although that's where I'm from, it's obviously not kind of how I sound normally, but we'll see how it goes. This is from A Country Called Black Country by Liz Berry, who makes, like, it's an accent obviously that's kind of maligned. It's like the Birmingham sort of accent for people who don't know where the Black Country is, and they're probably indistinguishable if you're not from the area. But the way she reads her poems and the way she writes her poems just makes the whole thing sound beautiful in a way that I just really never experienced before coming across her poetry. So this is called The Birmingham Roller, which is about a type of pigeon that does sort of backflip tumbles and looks like it's falling but isn't. Wench, youn the colour of our town, concrete, steel, oily rainbow of the cut. Our streets are in your wings, our factory chimneys plumes on your chest. Your heart's the china our old girls dust in their tranquil mint cabinets. Bred to dazzling in backyards by men, whose ons grow soft as feathers, just to touch you, cradle you from egg, through each death-defying tumble. little acrobat of the terraces, we'm winged when we gaze at you. Gimmick in the breeze, somersaulting through the white-breathed prayer of January, and rolling back up like a baby's yo-yo, caught by the open donny of the clouds.
That was beautiful.
Absolutely
That was
gorgeous.
fab.
So musical.
You're so right
It's
about
so nice. Like and even the ones that aren't written in dialect don't seem to work unless they're in the accent, and I can't work out. But the whole thing's really beautiful. I'll maybe share something of her reading because her voice is like incredible.
that. Would be really, really nice.
Yeah,
Thank you.
share it with us.
Absolutely.
Can I? We had like a couple of serious ones, and I looked up like animal limericks. So I found a couple of funny ones.
Absolutely. Yeah. Would you like to go do one of those, Andrea? Sorry, Andrea.
Yeah, because we had birds, I'm gonna go with the summer penguin. There once was a penguin called Billy who found the South Pole far too chilly. So he jumped on a flight heading northbound that night and lived out his days in Sicily. And because birds eat worms, I'm gonna read the wiggly earthworm next, if people are up for that. Then somebody else can go. Cool. A wiggly earthworm called Ray loved wiggling and laughed to partay. Other worms giggled at how much he wiggled. He wiggled all night and all day.
Oh,
That's a
cute. That is very cute. I have, now that we have done a worm one, continuity, I have a one about slugs, or it's, yeah, I mean, it's about slugs, sort of slugs and sex, I guess, that is quite a different tone, and is in fact one of my favorite unusual sexy poems. If I could do that one.
Yeah, they have a really interesting sex life. So
They really do. Have you seen the David Attenborough documentary about it?
no.
It's fantastic. It's got like these slugs that produce these like big fans, and it is all narrated in a very euphemistic way by David Attenborough's dulcet tones.
Sounds fun.
Sounds amazing.
Wonderful.
Have a watch party of that. Okay, right. So in the vein of that, I think you'll potentially enjoy this. So this is The Connoissance of Slugs by Sharon Olds. When I was a connoisseur of slugs, I would part the ivy leaves and look for the naked jelly of those gold bodies, translucent strangers glistening along the stones, slowly, their gelatinous bodies at my mercy. Made mostly of water, they would shrivel to nothing if they were sprinkled with salt, but I was not interested in that. What I liked was to draw aside the ivy, breathe in the odor of the wall, and stand there in silence until the slug forgot I was there and sent its antenna up out of its head, the glimmering umber horns rising like telescopes, until finally the sensitive knobs would pop out the ends, delicate and intimate. Years later, when I first saw a naked man, I gasped with pleasure to see that quiet mystery reenacted. The slow, elegant being coming out of hiding and gleaming in the dark air, eager and so trusting could weep. There you go. About slugs. I love poetry, and I don't understand why more people don't love poetry.
I'm just wondering what that man was like if he had antenna, you know.
Dude. Not?
Very short small one.
Should you not? You should get that checked out if that's not what you've got I mean, but do this when we're not recording, but you know, you're okay. So, does anybody have one that they would like to do after that?
Welcome.
Yeah.
Well, it's what I read a couple of times ago, but it's because it involves snails. So I think Frankie might remember it. But I wrote this for Eva and Michael because they wanted a shit poem in a letter. And so here we go. There once was a snail called Elaine. She fell for an otter called Dane. They met by a stream, and lo, it did seem that their lives they were nearly complete. They desperately wanted a daughter. For all days since their wedding, they sought her. They tried and they tried from above or behind, but the otter laid down, exhausted from their furious lovemaking, and squashed her.
Oh, oh no.
That really was terrible.
Yes.
That I love that and hate it in equal measure. Thanks so much, Malcolm.
Well, welcome.
Does anyone have one that they would like to do after that, or shall I pick somebody?
I've got A.A. Milne that involves a snail.
Ooh,
Yes.
perfect. God, I love
Always
that.
up for A.A. Milne.
Right.
Find it. Hang on. Trying to remember if it's in the when we were very young or now we are 6. Yeah. There are also a lot of other animal poems in here.
Just read them all.
I feel like that would be a whole few evenings worth. Okay, I found it. This is called The Four Friends. And at the risk of spoilers, there's these 3 and this one. The Four Friends. Ernest was an elephant, a great big fellow. Leonard was a lion with a 6-foot tail. George was a goat, and his beard was yellow. And James was a very small snail. Leonard had a stall, and a great big strong one. Ernest had a manger, and its walls were thick. George found a pen, but I think it was the wrong one. And James sat down on a brick. Ernest started trumpeting and cracked his manger. Leonard started roaring and shivered his stall. James gave the huffle of a snail in danger, and nobody heard him at all. Ernest started trumpeting and raised such a rumpus. Leonard started roaring and trying to kick. James went a journey with the goat's new compass, and he reached the end of his brick. Ernest was an elephant and very well intentioned. Leonard was a lion with a brave new tail. George was a goat, as I think I have mentioned, but James was only a snail.
So cute.
Everything in this book is just so charming.
That is very
Yeah.
charming.
Highly charming.
Maria, would you feel like doing yours next? I feel like that would be a nice segue onto your one.
Maybe, because mine is not about a worm, but it's kind of wiggly as well. It's a bit visual. I'm gonna show it here. This is what the poem looks like. I don't know if anyone can see it.
I can't really see it well. Ah,
Yeah.
no. Yes.
Ooh.
All right, so I'm going to start with a little introduction. So this is The Mouse's Tale by Lewis Carroll. Mine is a long and sad tale, said the mouse, turning to Alice and sighing. It is a long tale, certainly, said Alice, looking down with wonder at Mouse's tail, but why do you call it sad? And she kept on puzzling about it while the mouse was speaking, so that her idea of the tale was something like this. Fury said to a mouse that he met in the house, "Let us both go to law. I will prosecute you. Come, I'll take no denial. We must have a trial, for really this morning I've nothing to do," said the mouse to the car. "Such a trial, dear sir, with no jury or judge would be wasting our breath." "I'll be the judge, I'll be jury," said cunning old Fury. "I'll try the whole cause and condemn you to death." So, and then there is a little bit of end where Alice doesn't really understand what was going on, and more puns. And in the end, the mouse says that the whole thing is nonsense. So, it's the end.
Right, so
I could read a Lewis Carroll poem about a lobster.
yes,
Yeah.
you could.
I was going to read it last week, but then I read lots of poems last week.
Lobsters also have a really interesting sex life.
This is rather nonsense and not very sexy. It is in my book of comic and curious verse. It's called The Voice of the Lobster. "'Tis the voice of the lobster," I heard him declare. "You have baked me too brown, I must sugar my hair." As a duck with its eyelids, so he with his nose trims his belt and his buttons and turns out his toes. When the sands are all dry, he is gay as a lark and will talk in contemptuous tones of the shark. But when the tide rises and sharks are around, his voice has a timid and tremulous sound. I passed by his garden and marked, with one eye, how the owl and a panther were sharing a pie. The panther took pie crust and gravy and meat, while the owl had the dish as its share of the treat. When the pie was all finished, the owl, as a boon, was kindly permitted to pocket the spoon, while the panther received knife and fork with a growl, and concluded the banquet by...
Sweetie. Who would like to go next? Mike, would you like to do one of your next ones?
Yeah. Fab. So the next one is called The Fly by Walter de la Mare. How large into the tiny fly must little things appear? A rosebud like a featherbed, its prickle like a spear. A dewdrop like a looking-glass, a hair like golden wire, the smallest grain of mustard seed as fierce as coals of fire. A loaf of bread, a lofty hill, a wasp, a cruel leopard, and specks of salt as bright to see as lambkins to a shepherd.
Oh, mute everybody.
Oh, that was lovely.
That was absolutely gorgeous.
I like that one.
Yeah,
Lambkins.
that's very.
Lambkins.
Who else do we have? Michael, I think you said that you had one. Yours is a good one, right?
Yeah, I was going to read about Corbett, a poem that is about crows and ravens, not about a virus at all, obviously. Yeah, so I don't know how. Is this an okay volume?
Sounds good.
Okay. The background to this is that I was looking on the Daily Mail website once, and this poor old woman had written a comment saying that she was worried about all these corvids, and yeah, and then the poem sprang full form into my head. British corvids. When the corvid crisis reached its peak, and the crows and ravens cleared the street, I ordered twice as much tin peach and stayed behind my door. The early signs were tame enough, beset by a persistent chuff. Just the old and weak were stuffed, easy to ignore. But the rooks had been there all along, cawing out seducing songs. Claws, they said, would keep us strong, had hollowed out our stores. half a world away to start, but to shit the beds in English art. Faithy would and Blighty would outsmart the murderous encore. Hence, when wings of murder spread, there were no masks, no vents, no beds, everything been torn to shreds by magpies long before. Even they who'd been seduced, those partisans of markets loosed, saw what could have been of use, feathers, nests offshore. How grateful now to the refuse man, the saints who filled my chickpea can, the knights who ride the Waitrose band will clap forevermore. And enjoy this time of blessed recluse. I'll give my dining room a spruce, wash my hands until they're puce, eat my peaches slower. But what then once it's all flown over? Bait the heroes, hang the hoarders, bailouts, buy-ins, bank foreclosures, seems an awful bore. Shake the magic money tree, who owns what we'll never see. The debt that's held collectively till we settle up the score.
That's so good.
That was so good. I'm all over tether. That was awesome. Thank you very much, Michael.
You're welcome.
Let me see. Right. I've got another bird one actually. I think all mine seem to be about birds. This is I've got two bird ones. I've got a one that is kind of a bit angsty, and a one that is just purely beautiful words. What do you fancy?
Beautiful words.
Beautiful words. Okay. So this is The Wind Hover by Gerard Manley Hopkins. I caught this morning morning's minion, kingdom of daylight's dauphin, dapple dawn drawn falcon, in his riding of the rolling level underneath him steady air, and striding high there, how he rung upon the rein of a wimpling wing in his ecstasy. Then off forth on swing, as a skate's heel sweeps smooth on a bow bend. The hurl and gliding rebuffed the big wind. My heart in hiding stirred for a bird, the achieve of, the mastery of the thing. Brute beauty and valour and act, oh, air, pride, plume here buckle, and the fire that breaks from thee then, a billion times told lovelier, more dangerous, oh, my chevalier. No wonder of it. Sheer plod makes plough down Sicilian shine, and blue bleak embers, ah, my dear, fall, gall themselves and gash gold vermilion.
Hey, that was beautiful.
Isn't it beautiful? Oh, God. Ooh, shivers. Now, who else does? So M has a thing that they were going to read, but they don't know if they're going to make it in time, or they might be here later.
I'll wait for them.
Or Katie, did you have another one that you would like to do? Katie, we're going to do a T.S. Eliot one, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to give this decision to the group because I really can't choose. So there are 3 poems which I can't choose between, one of which is a funny poem about how to address a cat properly. One of which is about a cat that lives on a train, and one of which is about 2 cat burglars.
Ooh. I would like how to address a cat properly.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's called The Addressing Cat. You've read of several kinds of cat, and my opinion now is that you should need no interpreter to understand their character. You now have learned enough to see that cats are much like you and me and other people whom we find possessed of various types of mind. For some are sane, and some are mad, and some are good, and some are bad, and some are better, some are worse, but all may be described in verse. You've seen them both at work in games and learned about their proper names, their habits and their habitat, but how would you address a cat? So first, your memory I'll jog and say, a cat is not a dog. Now, dogs pretend they like to fight. They often bark, more seldom bite. But yet a dog is on the whole what you would call a simple soul. Of course, I'm not including peaks and such fantastic canine freaks. The usual dog about the town is much inclined to play the clown, and far from showing too much pride, is frequently undignified. He is very easily taken in. Just chuck him underneath the chin, or slap his back, or shake his paw, and he will gambol and guffaw. He's such an easygoing lout. He'll answer to any hail or shout. Again, I must remind you that a dog's a dog, a cat's a cat. With cats, some say one rule is true: don't speak until you're spoken to. Myself, I do not hold that. I say you should address a cat, but always keep in mind that he resents familiarity. I bow and, taking off my hat, address him in this form: "Oh, cat." But if he is the cat next door, who I am often met before, he comes to see me in my flat, I greet him with a "Oops, a cat." I've heard them call him James Buzz James. We've not got so far as names. Before a cat will condescend to treat you as a trusted friend, some little token of esteem is needed, like a dish of cream, and you might now or then supply some caviar or Strasbourg pie, some potted grouse or salmon paste. He's sure to have his personal taste. I know a cat who makes a habit of eating nothing else but rabbit, and when he's finished, licks his paws so as not to waste the onion sauce. A cat is entitled to respect, to expect these evidences of respect, and so in time you reach your aim and finally call him by his name. So this is this, and that is that, and there's how you address a cat.
Yay.
That was fab.
Yeah.
Very cute. Very, very cute. I have a very short cat poem from Starshine, which is the book that so this is called The Cat of Cats by William Brighty Rands. I am the cat of cats. I am the everlasting cat. Cunning and old and sleek as jam, the everlasting cat. I hunt the vermin in the night, the everlasting cat, for I see best without the light, the everlasting cat.
Ooh.
Have any more cat poems?
I have a cat one.
Yeah? Oh
You're gonna have to help. It's called The Black Cat, but Frankie, can you help me with the name pronunciation of the author?
Of course.
Let
me see.
I've sent it you in a chat.
Bear with me. Bear with me.
I don't want to do them a disservice by butchering the name.
Let me see. Rainer Maria Rilke, isn't it? I'm probably not.
That sounds good to me.
It's Rainer Maria Rilke.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. Fabulous. Okay. A ghost, though invisible, still is like a place your sight can knock on, echoing. But here, within his thick black pelt, your strongest gaze will be absorbed and utterly disappear. Just as a raving madman, when nothing else can ease him, charges into his dark night, howling, pounds on the padded wall, and feels the rage being taken in and pacified. She seems to hide all looks that have ever fallen into her, so that, like an audience, she can look over them, menacing and sullen, and curl to sleep with them. But all at once, as if awakened, she turns her face to yours, and with a shock, you see yourself, tiny, inside the golden amber of her eyeballs, suspended like a prehistoric fly.
Oh,
That's so good.
That's gorgeous.
I like that one.
That's absolutely beautiful.
Mm.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any more? cats or otherwise?
I mean, I'm very happy to continue reading poems about cats. I have a whole book of them.
Well, it's definitely
Because of Mike's Rilke choice, I love the Panther. I would have to check out, I just Googled it. Like, there are translations that are decent because I only know the German version, which I don't know. It's not that, I mean, it might sound nice, but you wouldn't know anything that's going on. I would take a moment to read through it first, but we can have something else in the meantime, and I'll do that later.
I've got, there's one about cats that I could do. Does anybody know Ode on the Death of a Favourite Cat Drowned in a Tub of Goldfishes?
No.
That is a very sort of silly parody of Ode on a Grecian Urn, which I quite like. So I could do that one while you have a look for a translation, Andrea?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is Ode on the Death of a Favourite Cat Drowned in a Tub of Goldfishes by Thomas Gray. Such a literature nerd. Ugh. 'Twas on a lofty vase's side, where China's gayest art had dyed the azure flowers that blow. Demurest of the tabby kind, the pensive Selima reclined, gazed on the lake below. Her conscious tale her joy declared, the fair round face, the snowy beard, the velvet of her paws, her coat that with the tortoise vies, her ears of jet and emerald eyes, she saw and heard applause. Still had she gazed, but midst the tide 2 angel forms were seen to glide, the Genii of the stream. Their scaly armour's Tyrian hue through richest purple to the view betrayed a golden gleam. The hapless nymph with wonder saw a whisker first and then a claw. With many an ardent wish she stretched in vain to reach the prize. What female heart can gold despise? What cat's averse to fish? Presumptuous maid, with looks intent, again she stretched, again she bent, nor knew the gulf between. Malignant fate sat by and smiled. The slippery verge her feet beguiled, she tumbled headlong in. 8 times emerging from the flood, she mewed to every watery god some speedy aid to send. No dolphin came, no nereid stirred, nor cruel Tom nor Susan heard. A favourite has no friend. From hence, ye beauties, undeceived, know one false step is ne'er retrieved, and be with caution bold. Not all that tempts your wandering eyes and heedless hearts is lawful prize, nor all that glisters gold. Very silly, Thomas.
That lovely.
Right, Andrea, did you find one?
Yes, it's good enough. Well, I'll explain after what I don't like about it, but it's pretty good. Okay, one moment. Yes, I'm ready to go. So this is The Panther by Rainer Maria Rilke. His gaze against the sweeping of the bars has grown so weary it can hold no more. To him, there seem to be 1,000 bars, and back behind those 1,000 bars no world. The supple step and sturdy pace that in the smallest of all circles turns, moves like a dance of strength around a core in which a mighty will is standing stunned. Only at times the pupil's curtain slides up soundlessly, an image enters them, goes through the tensioned stillness of the limbs, and in the heart ceases to beat.
Oh.
Beautiful. Very gorgeous.
Can I add, Andrea, that it looks like you have like long flowing hair that's been blown to the side with the thing behind you on the wall.
What? I chose hide self view, so I have no idea what I look like on screen. Let's see. Okay, so what do you mean? Like what looks like? Oh, you mean like
Whatever's
this?
on the wall behind you looks like.
It's a rose.
Oh,
Like, I don't know. Maybe you can. No.
Oh
Anyway.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my lush hair. Well, I'm gonna go back to hide self view because I find that really helps with not being Zoom fatigued. Right.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Right. Does anybody have any more animal poems that they would like to do?
I'd like to hear Andrea's problem with the translation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't rhyme like the original rhymes so wonderfully.
Yeah.
And, especially like the last, like that it doesn't rhyme in the last stanza. I don't know. Like it kind of, it isn't as nicely wrapped up, but it does a good job, like emulating like the rhythm and like the phrasing. So like it's good in that regard. And like I just did a quick Google search. Like I couldn't go through like a 500 and choose the best one. There were 2 on the Wikipedia page, and the other one I didn't like at all. And this one was like, yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. I do Hurt Hawks, which is I think very beautiful. It's but I think it's gorgeous.
I've lost your
I
sound.
can't hear you,
there.
Frankie.
Oh no! Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Am I back?
Yes.
Oh no! Maybe Zoom doesn't want me to read the bleak poem about Hurt Hawks. Well, fuck you, Zoom. I'm going to do it. Okay. So this is Hurt Hawks by Robinson Jeffers. The broken pillar of the wing jags from the clotted shoulder. The wing trails like a banner in defeat. No more to use the sky forever, but live with famine and pain a few days. Cat nor coyote will shorten the week of waiting for death. There is game without talons. He stands under the oak bush and waits the lame feet of salvation. At night he remembers freedom and flies in a dream. The dawn ruins it. He is strong, and pain is worse to the strong. Incapacity is worse. The curs of the day come and torment him at distance. No one but death the Redeemer will humble that head, the intrepid readiness, the terrible eyes. The wild God of the world is sometimes merciful to those that ask mercy, not often to the arrogant. You do not know him, you communal people, or you have forgotten him. Intemperate and savage, the hawk remembers him. Beautiful and wild, the hawks and men that are dying remember him. I'd sooner accept the penalties, kill a man than a hawk, but the great redtail had nothing left but unable misery from the bone too shattered for mending, the wing that trailed under his talons when he moved. We had fed him 6 weeks. I gave him freedom. He wandered over the fallen hill and returned in the evening, asking for death. Not like a beggar, still eyed with the old implacable arrogance. I gave him the lead gift in the twilight. What fell was relaxed, owl downy, soft feminine feathers. But what soared, the fierce rush. The night herons by the flooded river cried fear at its rising before it was quite unsheathed from reality.
Oh.
Thank you. I have a request for Frankie and Malcolm, if you feel up for it. Could you each read like one stanza of The Raven by Poe?
God.
Like one of your choosing. I mean, the whole thing is too long, I think. But like, or unless like if the others want the whole thing, I'd be up for that too. But I'm happy with one each.
I would definitely do the whole thing, but I don't know how much Malcolm would be up for that and what other people's tolerance.
So my knowledge of that poem is becoming greater from nothing to I'm finding
I fucking love this, so I think this is an amazing shout, and I think we should do the whole thing.
Okay.
Malcolm, what do you reckon?
Sure.
You don't have to. It's just a request.
Hold on, how about, so I have a very charming one about a fish. So what if I read this charming one about a fish and Malcolm could have a look over the raven, rise himself with it from nothing to something. And then Malcolm, you can see if you would be interested in doing the whole thing, or if you would maybe just
fuck it.
or you would not like to do it at all.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, well, hold on. So I'll read The Fish with the Deep Sea Smile.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to have a look through the raven. This is The Fish with the Deep Sea Smile by Margaret Wise Brown. They fished and they fished way down in the sea a mile. They fished among all the fish in the sea for the fish with the deep sea smile. One fish came up from the deep of the sea, from down in the sea a mile. It had blue-green eyes and whiskers 3, but never a deep sea smile. One fish came from the deep of the sea, from down in the sea a mile, with electric lights up and down his tail, but never a deep sea smile. They fished and they fished way down in the sea a mile. They fished among all the fish in the sea, the fish with the deep sea smile. One fish came up with terrible teeth, one fish with long, strong jaws. One fish came up with long, stalked eyes, one fish with terrible claws. They fished all through the ocean deep for many and many a mile, and they caught a fish with a laughing eye, but none with a deep sea smile. And then one day they got a pull from down in the sea a mile. And when they pulled the fish into the boat, he smiled a deep sea smile. And as he smiled, the hook got free, and then what a deep sea smile. He flipped his tail and swam away down in the sea a mile.
He escaped. Yay.
Yay!
Hi,
Hi.
Hey.
Hey. Malcolm, what do you reckon?
Hi. I have it here.
Are we going to have a go?
Yeah. I definitely will be reading most of it blind, so to speak.
Exciting.
Give it a go.
Do you want to start or should I start?
Andrea, what do you think?
Let's have Frankie start.
Okay. Right. So, this is The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, "only this and nothing more."
Distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my book's surcease of sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore.
And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more."
Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is, I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping, tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, darkness there, and nothing more."
Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore?" This I whispered, and an echo murmured back at the word, "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more.
Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what threat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more."
Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, nor a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady perched above my chamber bore, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more.
Then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. "Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, though," I said, "art sure no craven, ghastly grim, an ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore."
Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore.
But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further then he uttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, "Other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before." Then the bird sighed, "Nevermore."
Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, "Doubtless," said I, "what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of never, nevermore."
But the raven still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then, upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy into fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly gaunt, an ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, "Nevermore."
This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er, she shall press, ah, nevermore.
Then, methought, the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by a seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee. By these angels he has sent thee respite, respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, O quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if, within that distant Eden, it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thou soul hast spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore.
And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting, on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore.
Thank
Thank you so much. I enjoyed that.
So much fun.
That's perfect timing. Holy shit.
Right now?
Has anybody seen the Simpsons episode that
Yes.
they did just to that? Which is amazing.
Okay.
So good. It's so genius. So
It is.
post the link to that on the Storytime Facebook page because, like, if people haven't seen that, then they have to. It's brilliant. Also, take thy beak from out my heart and take thy form from off my door is one of my favorite lines in poetry, and I think that is just a brilliant way to tell something.
How essentially he, like as a character, seems to be implanting so much of what his are onto the bird, and the bird just going nevermore.
Yeah.
I'm saying, but realistically, he's just frightening himself in a mirror almost.
Mhm.
I mean, a talking bird, even if it does just say nevermore, is quite.
It's quite cool.
Yeah. Quote the raven, eat my shorts.
Oh,
He says nevermore. That's all he'll ever say. I believe you had a birth.
Yeah, I could do some reading. But if that is how you were intending to close out the night, I'm very happy to let it end with that.
I'd be very up for hearing your reading to close out the night if people would be up for that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a prose reading that you have, isn't it?
Yeah. So I've been slowly making my way through this book of Indigenous teachings about the medicine wheel. So I've got a couple little bits from it. One that made me very much think of this group of humans and stories in general. One that's context, and then one that goes a little bit more into the animal themes. Stories are like paths or ways. Whenever we hear a story, it is as if we were physically walking down a particular path that it has created for us. Everything we perceive upon this path or around it becomes a part of our experience, both individually and collectively. The medicine wheel. In many ways, this circle, the medicine wheel, can be understood best if you think of it as a mirror in which everything is reflected. The universe is the mirror of the people, the old teachers tell us. And each person is a mirror to every other person. Any idea or person can be a medicine wheel, a mirror for a man. The tiniest flower can be such a mirror, as can a wolf, a story, a touch, a religion, or a mountaintop. For example, one person alone on a mountaintop at night might feel fear. Another might feel calm and peaceful. Still another might feel lonely, and a fourth person might feel nothing at all. In each case, the mountaintop would be the same, but it would be perceived differently as if reflected in the feelings of the different people who experienced it. This book, 7 Arrows, is such a mirror. It is a medicine wheel, just as you are. So that's the context of it, and not even the animals of it. So if folks are up for sitting more, I'd love to get into the animal symbolism within the medicine wheel.
I would love to hear some animal symbolism.
Oh. The powers. Among the people, as in the indigenous people of the prairies, a child's first teaching of the 4 great powers of the medicine wheel is their absolute first. To the north on the medicine wheel is found wisdom. The color of wisdom is the north is white, and its medicine animal is a buffalo. The south is represented by the sign of the mouse, and its medicine color is green. The south is a place of innocence and trust, and for perceiving closely our nature of the heart. And the west is the sign of the bear. The west is the looks within place, which speaks of the introspective nature of man. The color of this place is black, and the east is marked by the sign of the eagle. It is the place of illumination, where we can see things clearly far and wide. Its color is the gold of the morning star. At birth, each of us is given a particular beginning place within these 4 directions on the medicine wheel. And the starting place gives us our first way of perceiving things, which will then be our easiest and most natural way throughout our lives. Any person who perceives from only one of these 4 great directions will remain just a partial man. For example, a man who possesses only the gift of the north will be wise, but he will be a cold man, a man without feeling. And the man who lives only in the east will have the clear, far-sighted vision of the eagle, but he will never be close to things. This man will feel separated, high above life, and will never understand or believe that he can be touched by anything. The man or woman who perceives only from the west will go over the same thought again and again in their mind, and will only be able to be undecided. And if a person only has the gift of the south, he will see everything within the eyes of a mouse. He will be too close to the ground and too nearsighted to see anything except whatever is right in front of him, touching his whiskers. There are many people who have 2 or 3 of these gifts, but these people are still not whole. A man might be a bear person from the east or an eagle person of the south. The first of these men would have the gift of seeing introspectively within illumination, but he would lack the gifts of touching and wisdom. The second would be able to see clearly and far like the eagle, within trust and innocence, but he would still not know of the things of the north, nor of the looks within place. In the same way, a person might also be a golden bear of the north or a black eagle of the south, but none of these people would yet be whole. After each of us has learned of our beginning place, our first place on the medicine wheel, then we must grow by seeking understanding in each of the 4 great ways. Only then will we become full, capable of balance and decision in what we do. And 7 Arrows speaks of this growing and seeking.
Thank
Where is that from?
It is called Seven Arrows. And I cannot pronounce the first word of the subheading, I suppose, or subtitle. But I have the translation of it. And I believe it means total understanding storm directly translated.
Nice. Right. Did anyone else have any last animal poems that they would like to do before we finish the session? No? Right. I hereby declare this Saturday over. Thank you all so much for coming. And what a freaking excellent selection of animal poems. I feel like we covered up quite a lot of territory in terms of tone and also the animals concerned.
I could tell a very, very, very short Ogden Nash poem about cows.
Yes. Go, do it.
The cow is of the bovine ilk. One end is moo, the other milk.
Sure.
I like it. Thank you very much. Right, stop this recording.